Hello and welcome to part 9 of the Unsung Heroes in the 2026 season, recapping the top underdogs and privateer performances from Indianapolis Lucas Oil Stadium, the ninth round of the Monster Energy AMA Supercross season. And of course, it was the second Triple Crown round of the year, the final round in the first half of the season, right before the only off weekend of the season. I am Trey Stire, your host. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, you know where to find this show: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio. Be sure to subscribe, follow the show so you can find things wherever you may listen, and also helps us get more visibility if you follow along. TreyStire.wordpress.com is the place you find the written versions of the articles, of course. Thank you so much for tuning in. A lot to talk about from the Indianapolis Supercross, a Triple Crown. So, of course, plenty of privateers going to battle, trying to overcome that stress and get into the main event. Now, here we go, going ahead and getting right into things. And we got a couple interviews lined up for you today. We are going to kick things off this week with one of the most consistent privateers in the 450 class, a constant presence usually. He got his first top 15 of the year and on his new machine at Daytona, follows it up a great 12th place effort in qualifying, and then 15th overall once again in the Triple Crown main events at Indianapolis. Joining us this week on the Unsung Heroes from the KMR Champion Tool Storage KTM team, Grant Harlan. What's up, man? Another top 15. You're stacking that momentum, getting more comfortable with the KTM. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here. I don't know if we've done one of these together before, but should be good. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, first time. Obviously, you've been featured quite a few times on the Unsung Heroes, but first interview. First of all, of course, Indianapolis, very treacherous conditions, always gets beat up, always gets choppy, a lot of ruts, but you were able to survive through the chaos. I know you've been looking forward to outdoor conditions. We get some ruts and some deep stuff in Daytona. You go out there, best run of the year. Then Indianapolis, more ruts, more technical conditions, and you go out another top 15, fantastic performance in qualifying. First thing is just take me through your weekend, how it was out there, because I'm sure at some points you were attacking, but I'm sure at others it was probably a little bit of survival out there.
Yeah, so obviously pretty good weekend for me. And I will say that Indy this year is the best it's probably been since I've raced it. Yeah, I mean it was rutted up and tricky and all that like it usually is, but comparing it to 23, 24, and 25, where I think it was really bad. I think that the track was honestly pretty pretty mellow in comparison, and I don't want to say easy because obviously it's never easy, but like the layout wasn't super hard and it wasn't as rutted up as usual. So I thought the track was good. Track crew did a good job between main events. Basically, I think they got pretty close to a full prep on all three main events for us, and especially the 250s. Both rhythm sections got touched up all the way through and whatnot. So yeah, overall good weekend. Qualifying 12th, like I just told you, I still don't know how that happened, but that's was one of those laps where I feel like that you play in your head of what you expect each weekend, and I think I just so happened to put everything together for that one lap and make it happen. So that was super cool for me.
Of course, 450 class this year, especially with the privateers, there's been a lot about stacked field, and it seems like we get that every year. So many guys through there. Of course, you have guys like Joey Savacci, Christian Craig, guys who have won all kinds of 250 races in their career. Justin Hill as well, former champion. Plus, you have guys like yourself, Mitchell Harrison, guys who have qualified for the playoffs before. You've been in the automatic berths a couple times. Now you're really starting to find the groove, and of course, you're on a new machine this year. Some of those other guys have that familiarity of being with their teams for a few years now. Last time we talked, I believe it was right as you were getting on to the KMR team with Kevin Moran's in this organization, and you still weren't able to ride the KTM yet. So now we're halfway through the Supercross season. How much have you been able to learn about the KTM and these steel frame bikes and really get things dialed in now that the season has started to progress?
Yeah, so working with Kevin and all the guys under the team has been good. Been super smooth, pretty easy. And yeah, as far as the privateer effort goes, Kevin's put together something pretty good, but it's still, at its core with a privateer program. The off season, I think, yeah, we talked about it. I was, waiting on a motorcycle still and got one, I think, at the beginning of November, something like that. So got two months or so on the bike leading up to A1, and me and Kevin are pretty similar sized guys, so I just took his suspension setting and basically did my whole off season on that. And once we went racing in Anaheim, uh, I started making small changes because I guess I took the 2 months of the off season and got comfortable on the bike, and got the base fitness and the laps in, and started really doing any sort of testing at the races. I think honestly, I would say every round so far this year, I've changed something. Not really anything setting wise, but like chassis and spring rate and just I think gearing this weekend, like just little things here and there that I'll try on Saturday just to see if it works. And I mean, I feel like at this point we've gotten better each weekend. Every weekend hasn't been perfect, but we've slowly been getting better, and I think it shows. And a lot of it is just making small tweaks on Saturdays, in race conditions to see what it does.
3 years on Yamaha before this, and I'm sure once you got on the bike, there were some differences big time. Of course, you go steel frame, aluminum frame, all of that. But when you got on the KTM for the first time, was there something that really opened your eyes and jumped off the page that was completely different from the bike, or a aspect that you felt was a little bit more improved compared to the Yamaha that you've been running the last few years?
The first thing I noticed when I got on it was the power delivery is a lot more mellow than the Yamaha. I mean, it's a 450, it's fast. They all can do the jumps, but just the way the power is delivered was and still is a lot more mellow than I was used to. Chassis, I mean, they do have some small fuel differences, but they all work towards the same goal, same purpose. They all go through the loops and hit the jumps and do everything pretty similar. So I think for me, like I said, I spent a majority of my time in the off season getting the base laps in and then making changes, each weekend after knowing the bike for as long as I could, to get comfortable to something that I wanted it to do. But there was nothing besides really the engine characteristic where I was like, ooh, we've got to fix that because I'm not used to that, or I want it to do this or that. Like these motorcycles are pretty dang good out of the crate. So it was more or less me just getting comfortable on the bike. And last year wasn't exactly stellar for me, so I was kind of riding myself back into a good pace and good fitness because yeah, SMX wasn't really great, but I was coming off an ACL and not much riding that summer. So it was all a combination of just getting the laps in and just getting comfortable riding again.
Of course, we have the hot button topic of the week being lap riders, and I know obviously lap riders are a part of the sport. Lap riders are a part of racing in general. You watch NASCAR, you see lappers. You watch F1, IndyCar, any type of racing series, whether it's two wheels or four, you're going to have lappers. And it seems like a couple bad apples have ruined the bunch this weekend. A couple incidents, mainly boiled down to one guy specifically, especially in the second race. Surprise, surprise. You look overall, and I don't think, of course, none of you guys are really trying to be in the way, but you're also running your own race. You're battling there with 15th, 16th, trying to get more points, trying to get closer like you and some of these other fellows to the SMX playoffs. Of course, there was a lot of controversy on social medias, and personally, I've been a big supporter and proponent of the privateers, so you can expect where I stand, but it feels like it was really only a couple guys that were trying to get in the way. But talk about how hard is it to balance for you guys? And I know that this is something that happens every single week, but you're trying to battle and trying to scratch for every single point you can. But then you see these blue flags and you have to move out of the way. And Indy looks like a very narrow track, at least from my point of view, watching it on TV. So, how hard is it to truly get out of the way when there are so many ruts and there really isn't a lot of ground to get over for?
Yeah, I mean, look, I know those guys are really good, but I also feel like some of the controversial lapper situations this weekend, I think the top guys need to be a little bit better at navigating it as much as the privateers, myself, my teammate, the all the guys that get lapped during the races need to be better at, you know, being aware of where the leaders are at and knowing what spots to go to be out of the way. But I'll give an example. Like there was a few times where I was like, okay, leaders are coming. I'm getting ready to go into the whoops. And like I would stay left over the double, go inside, go down the left side in the whoops, and a leader would go outside of the berm, cut down, and follow me. Maybe that's just a weird deal where that's the only line they were comfortable with, and that's fine. But I personally try and give them as much room as I can, and I take looks around. I see where they're at. The mechanics wave the boards, the flags are flying. I see them. I know other guys see them. It is tough to pick and choose spots because all those guys too take different lines. But I think we all need to work together and be a little bit smarter. You know, them a little bit on where they make the move. And again, like I said, it's tough. Like they're in a heated battle. They're going fast. You know, to them it probably seems like we're going slow and we're in the way. But I think people forget that the guys in 14, 15, 16 are pretty good at racing dirt bikes too. And then again on the short tracks, it's not even a lack of speed from some of us sometimes. It's just track position. Guys spread out throughout the course of a race, and on a short lap it happens quick. But yeah, I think we all need to be a little bit better at how we navigate it. And I would say it probably starts with us in the back, giving them a little bit more room and not trying to make passes when we're getting lapped. But yeah, it's a tough situation, and there's no easy fix. But um, I think the whole ban privateers and shorten the field and whatnot, all that talk is ridiculous over one weekend where some controversy was evident. But yeah, I think it's a little bit silly, but maybe we'll forget about it next weekend, like usually happens.
A little bit brighter now. We've had a solid year for you so far. It's been a little bit roller coaster in the beginning, but it seems like you're really finding your groove. And of course, you mentioned a little bit earlier you tore your ACL. You were off the bike a good bit in the summer. It seems like the last couple years you've had plenty of solid results after that first 450 season, but you've also had a couple hiccups, some injuries here and there. Talk about the road back from your injury last summer. Of course, you mentioned being in the playoffs, but not quite riding to that level you haven't been at. And now you are out there getting back in the groove of the regular main event guy that we expect you to be.
Yeah, I mean, after 23, obviously I got hurt in France and haven't really been, I guess, the same. But I also feel like everyone kind of stepped up their game a little bit after that season, after seeing the benefits of the playoffs, maybe. I think I was kind of one of the top privateers in 23 that was like that took advantage of, the injuries and decimation of the field. And after that season, some of those other guys really stepped up their game and made it more difficult. And some of the top guys stayed healthier longer, which also made it difficult. So I think I kind of maybe had too high of expectations for the level I was really at for 24 and 25, if that makes any sense. I got a ninth and 10th the last two rounds in 23 Supercross, and now I'm coming off injury, or I was coming off injury in 24, thinking I should be able to be close to that again. And when you don't achieve that, mentally you kind of go, well, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am, even if I am riding at a better level than I was the year before with guys stepping up and everything like that. So this year I've been trying to work a little bit, as well as getting the bike and the on track stuff good, trying to get the mental side of it a little bit better too, and realize that I am good, and maybe not be so hard on myself, and work on stuff like that.
Going into the off weekend, of course, several people like to spend off weekends different ways. Some guys going on vacation, resting up, recharging. Other guys are just hammering motos out there. For you, when you get a chance to have a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather in the season, are you a guy that just goes out there and continues to hammer laps, or what is your strategy during an off weekend and having a little bit of downtime instead of traveling to the races every weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still gonna get the laps in this week, next week. Um, do as much as I can off the bike training stuff, but for me, I'm gonna take this weekend off and catch up on some stuff that I feel like is tough to stay on top of during the season. I mean, at least me personally, I try and catch early flights back on Sunday, and then kind of rest and recover, and then Monday spent doing the base rides and the gym stuff, and getting ready for the riding Tuesday, Wednesday, and then fly out Thursday morning. So there's a lot of time where I come home and I don't even get to catch up on some things that need to be caught up on at the house. So yeah, spending the off weekend, just catching up on things around here and keeping up on the riding and stuff.
Of course, you've had a lot of strong results outdoors as well the past couple years. I mentioned it earlier in the show. You've been itching to get into the outdoors. Of course, you talked with Gavin Ayala, my boss over at Transworld Motocross, for their press day interviews a couple weeks ago. You've had a lot of success outdoors, put in some really good results, a lot of top tens over there. But the current team you're with, of course, Kevin runs a few outdoors every year. He goes to like Red Bud, Ironman, some of the ones in the Midwest, but not all of the time usually. For you, this outdoor season, of course, something you really excel at. Does it look like the KMR team is going full outdoors and jumping into things, or what does the picture look like for you during the summer at this point?
Yeah, so Kevin doesn't do the full outdoor season, and it's not currently on his radar or plans. I know he's fully supportive of me going to race outdoors with his bikes and equipment and stuff. So that's another thing that we're gonna take a look at this off week, and kind of come up with a game plan of keeping me on board with the program, but also what do we need to do to make it happen without, I guess, the full rig and uh and team setup, because for him, and really a lot of teams, going outdoors is, it costs more money than you get back from it, and the support isn't all there from sponsors and whatnot, because it's not as viewed and watched and whatnot. So at this point in his team deal, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for him to take the semi and everything outdoors. So yeah, we're gonna work on that this week, and figure out a game plan of how we can do outdoors and get into SMX and all that, and stick with the team.
This has been Grant Harlan once again on the Unsung Heroes, talking about his weekend at Indianapolis and a little bit more. Before we conclude, go ahead, shout out your social medias. Where can people find you on the internet? Plus, give a shout out to your sponsors. Of course, the KMR team have been helping you out big time this year, getting you back inside the top 15. Give a shout out to those helping you get to the races every single weekend. And where can people find you to follow along with you throughout the rest of the season?
The main form of socials that I use is mainly Instagram, and then I share the same stuff to Facebook. So Instagram is just Grant_Harlan, and then you can check out all the sponsors that support myself and Kevin in the sponsor tags on the post, and check out the KMR Racing Instagram. I would say a major support and sponsor for not only Kevin but myself this year is Garen at Champion Tool Storage. He's part of the reason we're looking into being able to go outdoors and stick with the team. And there's been a couple other things that he's personally helped me with this year so far. So yeah, not only happy with the team, but happy to have somebody like him supporting the team and supporting myself to go racing. And not only should you check out my social and the team social, but go check out Kevin's YouTube channel for the vlog stuff, which I make cameos in and try and bring some humor to Kevin's little bit more serious nature. So yeah, go check that out.
Thanks once again for the time, man. Grant Harlan, enjoy your off weekend and best of luck the rest of the season. Go out there and keep stacking those results.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you so much to Grant Harlan for the time, of course, a part of that KMR Champion Tool Storage KTM team and the 450 class. Go follow him, support his journey throughout the rest of the season. Now we'll go ahead and move into the 250 East Division as we traditionally do. And leading the class, sixth place finish, his best career result to date at his home Supercross as well. Devin Simonson aboard the Club MX Yamaha. What a night for the number 89. It looked like briefly in that final main event he could be potentially on the podium. Of course, he slipped through the field a little bit, but a great run nonetheless. His starts were on point all night. He was putting himself up there with the factory riders, mixing it up, and of course, he led a little bit there, took the lead from Jalik Swoll in that final race. 7.66 his scores of the night. What a run for Devin. His previous best finish was 8th, and he's hit that a few times. But now moving up, getting closer to the top 5, close to the podium as well. A great night for Devin. And of course, the Club MX team was on point as well. Just behind him, Cody Schock in position number 7. He had a 5th place run in the second race. That was his best of the night. Another solid result for Cody. Of course, he's in that 6 to 10 guy solidly. He's frequently fighting there in that top 5, and of course has that podium from last year's Triple Crown at Arlington. Cody has what it takes to compete with the factory guys, and of course I started calling them the Three Musketeers on my articles because it seems like they are in the podium fight every single weekend, or at least the top 10 fight. You have Cullen Park, once again, top 10 aboard the Phoenix Racing Honda. Of course, the gold wheels out there representing ninth place overall. Cullen continues to stack points, 18 top 10s in 30 career starts. That's a pretty solid number to have in his career. He's been so solid his entire career to date. He was kind of an unknown guy when he hopped into the rankings, and then he got up there, and he is solid. Just behind him, 11th overall. Well, actually, Nate Thrasher in between them, but Derek Kelly in 11th for the MX6 Racing Kawasaki team. Best result for that organization so far. Of course, this is their first Supercross season, so they are still getting the wheels going there. He was down at the beginning of the opening race of the night, but he kept climbing forward. He gained 8 spots, moved to 14th, and then went 10th and 8th in his final moto. So top 10 speed there for DK. We know he has it, putting things together a little bit more and better than his Arlington finish. I'm sure we're going to see Derek in the top 10 a little bit later in the year. And Thrasher finished ahead of him overall, but he was ahead of Nate in a couple motos. And, Nate has won a race every single season of his Supercross career prior to 2026. So no slouch at all. 12th place behind Derek on his privateer Yamaha. Of course, doing things on his own. Pristine Auctions, Renan among the companies supporting him. Kyle Peters was back after a crash in the LCQ last week at Daytona. It was a bit of a white, black, and red look for Kyle this week, somewhat resembling the retro Yamaha feel from Daytona, but on a different spin because Pristine Auctions main colors are white and red. 12th overall for Kyle, of course, a guy who's scored a podium previously at Indianapolis, but he stayed on the lead lap all night. 12th overall, not a bad recovery, a step forward after some struggles on the high banks at Daytona. 13th and 14th position, both Storm Lake Honda Buddy Brooks Racing riders. Isaiah Clark, another top 15 apart from his D&Q at Arlington. He's gone 12, 11, 12, 13 in the last 5 races, and that's pretty solid. He's really turning into a solid top 15 level guy. Of course, plenty of arena cross experience and wins in that discipline. He qualified straight in for his first Triple Crown, didn't have to worry about the LCQ. 13th overall. A nice effort for the Fort Dodge, Iowa native, of course, a town rich with Supercross history from guys like Justin Brayton. Finishing 14th overall in the 250 East main event on Saturday night, we are into the first interview of our show this week. Joining us from the Storm Lake Honda Buddy Brooks Racing team after his LCQ victory, a top 15 finish in Indianapolis, a venue that has been pretty good to him over his career. 5 starts in Lucas Oil Stadium. Luke Neese is on the Unsung Heroes. Luke, what's up, man, and congrats on the top 15.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Of course, Triple Crown rounds, it seems like it gets a lot of talk all the time, and rightfully so, about being pretty hard for privateers to qualify in. Of course, not as many factory guys as, say, in the 450 class, but still a lot of very competitive riders, even those guys like Cody Stock, Cullen Park, who are in the main every week. You weren't able to put it right in the show, but you put together a fantastic run in the LCQ, led almost the entire race. Second LCQ win in 3 weeks as well. And then you got into the show. A great night for your team. 13th overall, your teammate Isaiah Clark just in front of you. And then you were right there in 14th, both guys in the top 15. My first question to you, take me through the evening. Of course, there's a lot of action and a lot of stress throughout the day for guys like you who are right there on that bubble, but you put it in the show and put together a solid night of action.
Yeah, definitely. Always I actually struggle a lot more with time qualifying than I do racing. Kind of when the racing when we get a gate drop, I seem to kind of show up, but time qualifying has always been an issue for me. So especially for Triple Crowns and obviously with how stacked the East Coast is this year, it's pretty tough to get into a Triple Crown. So um And honestly, kind of going into this weekend, I had a pretty big crash at Club MX on Tuesday and separated my shoulder, and honestly wasn't sure if I was going to race. Didn't ride all week, and I showed up Saturday morning and first time qualifying, and it felt okay, just a little painful. So just try to dig through it, and obviously it ended up being a good weekend for us. So pretty stoked to get the LCQ win and have 3 good finishes, and obviously make it through the night without falling off a motorcycle. So shoulders are just are pretty weak. So just happy to get some consistent finishes and get that 14th place this weekend.
I remember you talking on the broadcast after you won the LCQ, mentioning about your shoulders. Of course, Indianapolis, always a very treacherous track, ruts, chewed up, bumpy conditions. And for anybody that was at 100% health, it would have been challenging. But for you out there with the damaged shoulders, how much of a stress was it for you to get out there and try to navigate quickly? Of course, you said you were clean, you kept it upright, so you didn't have to worry about hitting the ground and possibly re-injuring something or making things worse. But how much did that take a toll on you when you already have damage to your body and then you go out there with such a beat up, nasty racetrack?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely it's hard on the mental game for sure. Just honestly trying not to fall with all the ruts. It wasn't too bad. The whoops was probably the hardest part for me, and then the on off before the finish line. Those 2 sections were probably the hardest ones for me on the weekend. But yeah, other than that, honestly, it wasn't too bad. Just honestly, just doing the main events, trying to last the full, I guess, 10 minutes plus a lap. That was really tough, especially 3 times. Like just honestly, my shoulders were just super weak. I say shoulders. I separated my shoulder, my right shoulder a week before Arlington, and then obviously I separated my left one on Tuesday. So it's I kind of got double whammy there. But yeah, just unfortunate. But yeah, it was good to kind of survive the night. And honestly, the first laps were the toughest. Just trying to stay out of the carnage the first couple laps and try to settle in a little bit to just get some good finishes.
You've had a solid start to the year, a bit of a hiccup in Daytona. I know you lost your fast lap and was out of the night show, which is very uncommon for you, but Arlington, you went out there, first round of the year, LCQ victory, put it in the main event. Then same thing at Indianapolis, returning to the Dome, getting back in that main event picture there. You joined up with the Storm Lake crew, of course, one of the longest running privateer organizations in the pits. You joined partnership with them in the SMX playoffs, then worked with them, of course, in the Partzilla Arena Cross Series where you carried the number one plate. Talk about getting to work with that team. I know Buddy Brooks and that crew have had a long list of privateers. I think Chris Bloss back in the day was on that team. Of course, guys like Henry Miller. So many guys have rode through there through the years. Freddie Noren even as well. It seems like every single year the 250 East class, the Storm Lake crew, always has a couple guys out there battling for top 10s, top 15s. Talk about taking those steps because I know you raced your own program the last few years, but getting back to a team and working with a organization like that that is so used to being out there in the main event.
After last year, just doing my own privateer program and getting sponsors and everything, I did it for the past couple of years. I think I did it for 3 years, just full privateer, and did pretty well doing it on my own. I got some really good sponsors on board, was able to make a little bit of money and have a really good privateer program. But obviously that comes with the stress of having to order parts, having to make sure your bikes are good, hire a mechanic, travel. Like it's turned into a legit full-time job. Not saying it's not being on a team, but it kind of takes away from the racing aspect a little bit. And it just made it a little bit more stressful on me, just during the week, like not being able to go to the gym because I'm just literally just I'm beat from traveling and doing my own stuff from the practice track and ordering stuff every night and getting back home from Club MX at 7 o'clock at night, having to wash my dirt bike and still having to do a spin that night. Like it turns into a full-time job. And after last year, me and Buddy kind of talked towards the end of the season, and I ended up breaking my thumb last year at the second to last round and didn't really get to see him much in Salt Lake. And I ended up actually hitting him up a couple months before the Arena Cross series, kind of work some stuff out, and we're kind of talking about doing the Arena Cross stuff, and didn't really have any insight on doing SMX stuff. Wasn't really planning on doing it, and then got the call, or I got the invite to go do it, and I actually hit up Buddy, and I'm like, hey, like I got the invite to go do it. I know you guys are kind of closest to St. Louis. And it ended up actually kind of working out. I raced Charlotte SMX on my own bike just to kind of race, and honestly, I only had about 3 days on the bike. And rode my bike, and then in St. Louis they had a bike supplied for me, and I basically showed up and raced their bike. No time on it, and man, it was awesome. And from that point on, I took the bike home with me, and they've been awesome to me. Buddy is obviously, like you said, he's ran a team for quite a while now in Arena Cross and Supercross, and he puts together a really good program. And for this past year, doing Arena Cross with them, and kind of just I guess breaking in the relationship a little bit, and learning how his program works and everything else, it's been awesome. He's been nothing but good to me, and bikes are awesome. The mechanics are awesome. Everybody's really good over there. So yeah, going into Supercross, I had quite a bit of confidence coming in, just being on a solid team, and obviously getting a little bit of that stress off my back, of not having to worry about the little stuff. So yeah, it's been great. Bike's been awesome, and like you said, in Daytona, we kind of had a little bit of an issue just with sound, and got my fast lap taken away, and that was quite unfortunate. But honestly, I don't think I've really been able to show my full potential yet, just since I've had some injuries leading into the series. But hopefully, Alabama and the next few coming up, I can finally kind of show something. So
You mentioned the Partzilla Arena Cross Series, of course. I'm with
yep.
Transworld Motocross, so big partnership with them, bringing some of the coverage. And it was a pretty stacked group of racers. Gage Linville, of course, walked away with the championships. A lot of fast guys. Aiden Shive was out there performing well, and then he goes over and is having a career best season, 250 West. Landon Gibson, of course, Husqvarna, amateur prospect up in there. So many fast guys, main event level supercross talent in that field. You weren't able to defend your number one plate, but you still got some momentum at the end of the season. You started being up on that podium regularly. It seemed like you were snake bit at the first few rounds, but you really started to turn the corner toward the end of the season. I think you got a win or two as well. talk a little bit about that as well. And of course, some of these racers use these Arena Cross series to not only get some gate drops and get back in the flow, but to also shake down new bikes. And of course, you mentioned that with the Storm Lake Honda team. But talks a bit to some who might not know about the Partzilla Arena Cross program, about the series, about the program there, and talk about your season and how it got you ready for Supercross.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah, the Partzilla Arena Cross series, that's ran by Bobby. He does an awesome job. You know, for the East Coast, we don't really have much as far as racing like that. So he's able to put that on for us, and at least for the East Coast guys, we can make a little bit of money. So yeah, it's awesome. We don't like I said, we don't have much over here other than, I mean, we can go race outdoors, but it's, you know, as a privateer, it's tough to make money in outdoors and to do the full series with traveling and stuff. But on with the Partzilla stuff, it kind of leads right into Supercross. The series ends right before East Coast Supercross, so it makes it to where, I mean, obviously it's a great warm up of racing, gate drops. I'm all about it. So kind of get you into that race shape a little bit. So yeah, no, this year we unfortunately didn't get the championship again this year, but we started getting a lot of momentum towards the end of the series. Yeah, we mainly struggled with starts at the beginning of the season. Just could not get off the gate. The team and I, obviously, we were kind of new with each other, but yeah, just really couldn't get off the gate very well, which obviously led to some bad results and kind of getting caught up in some traffic. So yeah, it was unfortunate at the beginning of the season. I mean, I think after the first round, I think I was 8th in points, so had a pretty big gap to get back up to first. And man, Gage was just on it, man. His starts were on point, and it's hard to compete when he's doing that. So, but yeah, managed to get the starts figured out and kind of get the bike a little bit more figured out, and yeah, just ended up turning around at the end of the season and got a couple wins, and yeah, I mean that's kind of all we could ask for at that point. So. But yeah, it was good to get second overall in the championship and go right into Supercross like that. It was good. So it got the bike all dialed in for Supercross. And again, like I said, I'm just kind of waiting for my time to kind of show up in Supercross because I feel like I had some really good speed in Arena Cross. I just didn't get to show it with the starts. So time qualifying, I could show a little bit in Arena Cross, but yeah, just excited to show it in some Supercross now.
Obviously, I mentioned the Triple Crowns being stressful for privateer racers like you, but perhaps even more stressful are the East-West showdowns. Of course, we have Birmingham coming up, the first showdown of the year. We have two more as well throughout the year. And you've qualified for a couple of them in the past, so you have that experience and have that confidence from being able to make the top 22 and put it in the show from the past. But there are so many riders, like I said, even that privateer level. There are, I think, 8 factory guys healthy right now in the 250 East class, but like I mentioned, Shock, Park, Devin Simonson, Henry Miller, Derek Kelly, Marshall Welton, yourself, Isaiah Clark, Gavin Towers, Evan Ferry. I mean, the list goes on in terms of guys who are main event talent. For you, qualifying in at Birmingham, when you get to Protective Stadium out there, what is your mindset going to be going into it? And for you, how stressful is it when you have, it's not like the other night shows where you can qualify maybe 25th and still be in and worry about a heat race. You have to be top 20 to even get into the night show. Plus, it's basically a main event in the heat race with the amount of talent on the gate. Plus, you're going up against some of those guys from the West Coast who are hungry and out there ready to compete as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a little stressful. Considering my time qualifying is not the greatest. But yeah, we've been trying to work on it during the week at Club MX, and yeah, obviously it's been a little tough just because just some injuries. But yeah, hopefully get a little healed up this week, and next week just honestly focus on sprint work. The cardio's as good as it can be for this season. Obviously racing arena cross and doing all that stuff. Cardio is I feel like it can't get any better at this point. So, but yeah, mainly just try to focus on the sprint speed just to make sure I get qualified through the time qualifying. But yeah, I mean we were pretty close to top 20 this weekend for the Triple Crown, which was awesome. I mean, considering I didn't really have two healthy shoulders, so it's tough on the East Coast right now with not only all the factory guys that are still healthy, but obviously all the fast privateer teams, like we have a ton over here on the East Coast, which makes the East Coast really tough. So it's good. It's good having this because for East West, it makes it seem like we're already on an East West shootout the past 3 weekends. So just of how stacked it is right now. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think I can definitely show some speed in Alabama as long as I get healed up here next week or two. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it though.
Obviously, you've mentioned getting your shoulders right, getting the ball rolling, coming out of the break. But in terms of goals for the rest of the season, what is one goal that you really want to chase after for the rest of the year? Of course, knocking down those main event starts are important, but what is one thing that you really want to work on and try to accomplish before 2026 comes to an end?
Yeah, man, I really just want to be in that right there around that top 10 mark. I feel like my speed is where it should be. Obviously, I need to get healed up, like I've said a couple times, but yeah, I feel like once I kind of get the shoulders in line there, I think the speed will come. And yeah, I just want to be right there on that top 10 mark and show that me and the team are capable of doing that. Obviously, the team is very capable of doing it with Henry Miller and a few of the others that have been on the team. So, yeah, that's kind of my goal is I want to be around that 10th mark, and yeah, be get a little farther up in points, and yeah, see how the rest of the year goes for us on that end. But yeah, that's the end goal though. Be around the top 10 mark.
Before we conclude our interview, this has been Luke Neese once again on the Unsung Heroes, but go ahead, feel free, give a shout out to some of the people supporting you, helping you get to all the races. Of course, I know the Storm Lake Honda team, you've mentioned them several times, but give a shout out to some of those who are helping you get to the track every single weekend, and also feel free to plug some of your social medias so people can find you after they listen to the show.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. You can follow me on Instagram, Luke Neese 125, and TikTok, same username. But yeah, no, obviously Buddy Brooks and AJ Whitrock from Storm Lake Honda, Buddy Brooks Racing Team. Those guys are awesome. But yeah, obviously we have Art of War, FXR, 6D, and some of my personal sponsors like Red Research Group, Brandon Farlow, Frog or Adam McGuire from Patriot Racing. Kyle Stover from KS Trenchco, those guys, they've been awesome to me. And one of my good buddies, Boogie Bob, Thunderbolt Racing, he's been in my corner for quite a while now. So yeah, just thank you to all those guys that have been in my corner for a while. And even when I was privateer on my own, they've been there for me. So and then everybody else with the team, Art of War Suspension, Yoshimirs, and yeah, just all those guys. Thank you guys.
Luke Neese on the Unsung Heroes, thank you for the time once again, man. Best of luck the rest of the season. Get healed up this weekend and go out there and attack at Birmingham.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate you for having me on.
Thank you again to Luke Neese for the time on today's interview. Storm Lake Honda, Buddy Brooks Racing, two riders in the top 15. Make sure to go follow him and his journey throughout the rest of the year as well. Behind this group of Hondas, you had a couple teammates from the Partzilla Rocket Blaster Power PRMX Kawasaki team, and it was second generation racer Liam Aloff making his pro debut. He missed some time due to a broken wrist suffered in the Partzilla Arena Cross Championship, but made his pro debut in Indy. He used the C group in qualifying to his advantage with the fresh track, put it straight in to the motos, 16th overall in qualifying, and a top 15 on his debut. A solid run for Liam, of course, the son of former privateer Joe Aloff. Solid start for Liam, 16, 16, 14 in his first ever Supercross main event, the fourth former SMX Next graduate to compete in their first ever main event this year. Congratulations to Liam, the start of something for him. He said he was super stoked on his riding. Awesome to see him back. And then also back in the main event, Luke Clout, the number 101 from Australia, 16th overall. Luke was at one point inside the top five in qualifying, but he was shuffled back a little bit to eighth place. Wasn't really able to show his full level of speed. Bad starts plagued him throughout the night. Luke ended up 16th overall, which matched his finish from Arlington. But of course, he DNQ'd at Daytona, so a step forward for the Aussie. 18th position you have Marshall Welton on the MX6 Racing Kawasaki machine. It was another close call for Marsh, barely squeaking into the main event. You had John Short tracking him down late in the race. Marsh was riding a bit conservative, a bit hesitant, and John tracked him down. It was a drag race to the finish line, pretty much. Maybe about a wheel length was the final distance between Marshall Welton making the main event and missing the main event. So it was close there, but Marsh put her in the show. 18th place overall. 2 out of the 3 MX6 guys qualifying this weekend. Then a little bit further back, some more teammates grouped together. You have Gavin Towers and Evan Ferry of the Phoenix Racing Honda team. Both guys went directly in. Gavin qualified 10th position on his number 73 Honda. Gavin was solid in the first moto, 11th place to begin the night, but unfortunately, he came together with Seth Hamaker in the second race, 2 Pennsylvania boys. Some friendly fire there. Seth jumped, landed on Towers' shoulder. Gavin went down pretty hard, but thankfully it seems like he is okay apart from being a little bit beat up, a little bit banged up. Gavin should be ready to roll in Birmingham. He also said he woke up sick on Saturday morning, so a little bit of insult to injury there. Poor Gavin had a rough weekend in Indianapolis, but still managed a 19th place finish thanks a lot to that 11th place run to begin the night. Then right behind him, his teammate Evan Ferry, closer and closer towards success. Of course, Evan, second main event in a row, getting a little bit better, and he qualified straight through. He said it was his best qualifying effort of his career. He was pretty happy with that. So little building blocks for little red dog. Hopefully he can continue to keep growing and maybe push closer to that top 15 level, maybe even top 10s if he keeps progressing. Now moving just behind them, you have in 21st position CJ Bernard, his first main event of the year. He joined the Gizmo Racing Yamaha team last year, competed through all of the outdoors and at a couple supercrosses for the AEO Power Sports KTM team. CJ unfortunately was a DNF in the first race. He got trapped under his machine, but then came back 18-19 in the final 2 motos. Fortunately for CJ, he got in through qualifying. He didn't have to worry about the LCQ, didn't have to worry about that stressful situation. He got right in the show, didn't have to worry about things. CJ Bernard back in the main event picture. 21st at Denver last year for his first career start, then his second career start. 21st at Indianapolis. Then behind him, the last rider in the main event, Valentin Guillot, the Swiss native. He went through the LCQ in a great performance, worked his way up after being just outside in the first couple laps. Third in the LCQ, then unfortunately went down pretty hard. Nothing major there. He's just going to have to heal up a little bit, and he will be ready to go and recharge for the first East-West showdown of the season in Birmingham, of course, 2 weeks' time. Protective Stadium, March 22nd. We will see the first East-West race of the year. Valentin actually broken scapula is what he was expecting, but nothing broken, according to the x-ray at the Alpine Stars mobile medical rig. He landed hard on his shoulder his second race. Third race, he said it was quote-unquote impossible for him to race, but hopefully he will be back and ready to roll. Just outside of the main event, as I mentioned in the Marshall Welton segment, you had John Short right there, so close to his third consecutive start of the year, but Marshall Welton made his third start of the year instead. John Short was a star of some social media stuff this weekend. Blue, the Indianapolis Colts mascot, was in Lucas Oil Stadium for press day, and he went for a spin on John's machine, but John was one spot shy of putting his Honda into the main event. Also just shy of the main event, representing 3D Racing, of course, the team founded by the late Bill Dill, Russell Bucheri from Duxbury, Massachusetts. This is his first season of Supercross. He raced some SMX Next last year, has some outdoor starts under his belt, and a couple points at Southwick in 2024, his home racetrack. Russell got up front, was also like Valentin Guillot, making up some spots early, and Bicheri and Welton were battling there. Unfortunately, Russell clipped a jump and then went down, clipped the rear end of Welton's motorcycle. I think he got a little too impatient after he made his mistake and then ran in a little bit too hard and clipped Welton and went down. But he's continuing to learn. It was only his third career attempt. I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see Russell in the main event. He was a pretty solid top 10 level guy in SMX Next last year, and he's going to continue to keep growing and building. And this is by far the best he's looked throughout the season. And he looked like main event level speed out there. Also getting out front for a bit of time in the LCQ was Noah Viney, who's competing for the ISRT Kawasaki team, of course, Bubba Pauly's operation. Noah spent the last couple years with Moto Concepts Racing Honda, ISRT's first foray back into the 250 class since Josh Cartwright competed with them in 2022. Noah pulled the whole shot, led a couple laps, but started to fade, and then was involved in a collision with Luca Marsalisi and wasn't able to stay in that range of fighting for the transfer spots. One previous main event for Noah in his career, Anaheim won last year. He's hoping to end that drought here in the next few weeks. That has been your 250 class news and notes, and of course, all of the main event finishers. Congratulations to them. Now moving into the 450 class, and it was a triple top 10 for the Quad Lock Honda boys. Christian Craig 8th overall, Joey Savacci 9th, Shane McElrath 10th. Christian's best effort of the year, a 9th, was his previous best, and this was Christian's best finish since March 2023. It was a quiet night, 10-8-10 for the veteran, but solid nonetheless. His best run of the year, continuing to build and put little pieces together. Joey, another top 10, but he may be on the injured list for a little bit. Not sure the full extent of his injuries yet, but he said he had some scans done. He overjumped the corner into the mechanics area a little bit in the middle portion of the final race of the night. And when he landed, his boot got caught under the left side panel of his Honda. He immediately dropped the bike into the foam blocks. I guess you could call them the tall, tough blocks where the mechanics area is. Went down, was limping, favoring his leg. Sad end to the night for Joey. He definitely could have been 6th or 7th overall with his previous scores. He went 7-5 in the first couple motos, so he was really putting together a strong night. And he was right there once again with his teammates, fighting with Christian and Shane, but then goes down. Hopefully, Joey is not too hurt. Hopefully, we'll be able to see him back sometime soon. But recording this Monday evening, still waiting on the diagnosis for the number 17 of Joey Savacci. And then just behind him, as I mentioned, Shane McElrath, 2 top 10s in a row now after an 8th place finish at Daytona, continuing to build. I said that in this part of the season when the series move east, it might be time for Shane to step up and to start building those results and getting back into the top 10 regularly like he was a year ago. And it seems like that is the case moving to the East Coast. Then a couple spots behind him, 12th position, former 250 West champion on the Monster Energy Team Tedder KTM, Justin Hill. A decent weekend, some speed, a little bit in qualifying, but nothing crazy. 12th place, still stacking points and getting closer to a potential playoff berth for the number 46. Then behind him, oh boy, Vince Freezy. I mentioned it earlier in the show in my interview with Grant Harlan. I didn't mention him by name, but Vince Freezy was a little bit of who I was talking about. Some controversy there. Cross-jumping Eli Tomac a little bit in that second main event. Of course, Eli was not happy, rightfully so. And then the incident where Hunter Lawrence landed on Cole Thompson. If Vince doesn't tiptoe around the inside of that corner and catch Cole by surprise a little bit, I don't think that incident happens, but it did. Vince has had some really quiet rounds, and then he's made up for it at different points other times in the season. And I think Steve Mathis has a great solution for this. Of course, Steve looks out for the privateers with his Pulpamex LCQ Privateer Challenge race. But his solution, maybe if you get lapped 2 times, you should get black flagged. Pull off the track, Lappers are something that gets involved in every single motorsport. Going out on a limb and saying that ball privateers should be banned is crazy, but I was also surprised to see that no penalty points were on Freezy's license. He's already racked up a few throughout the season. Of course, punting Mitchell Harrison for 19th at Anaheim 2 comes to mind. But even though he was involved in some controversy, Vince got 13th. It was a decent night, decent finish. Just a shame that there was more controversy to boot, and of course, some factory guys not happy, privateer guys not happy, some talking points going into the off weekend. Of course, 15th place, a couple spots behind him. Grant Harlan, we talked with him earlier in the show. Awesome to have some insight and see into Harlan's preparation and what his weekend was like aboard that KMR Champion Tool Storage KTM. Few spots behind him was his team owner, Kevin Moran's 18th overall. It was a tough weekend in Daytona for Kevin. He missed the main event, but he was back in the show. 18th for Kevin as he returned to the main event. So 15-18, a pretty solid night for the KMR boys. Sandwiched in the middle of those guys a little bit. 16th position, you have Mitchell Harrison. Money Mitch. I say it all the time. And of course, he's back in the main event. 9 for 9 to start the year, continuing his perfect streak. Partzilla, Rocket, Blaster Power, PRMX, Kawasaki. Partzilla, the best for parts. Shout out to them. Of course, they're helping support things over at Transworld Motocross. But Mitch was pretty quiet. 18, 16, 16, 16th overall, tying his best finish of the year. Money Mitch continuing to rack up the points and rack up the main event starts. Then a little bit further down the order, Freddie Noren back-to-back starts for the first time this season on the Gizmo Racing Yamaha. Good for him to finally get some momentum, get back going in the right direction after some struggles earlier in the year. But 20th place for Freddie. Not quite the end result he wanted. 21st in the first main event. Hurt a little bit. He moved up late in the LCQ to get there, passing Scott Meshy and Justin Starling. And of course, Freddie's the only guy under the Gizmo Racing tent on the 450 right now. Stefan Rubini started the year there. Unfortunately, got injured at San Diego, torn Achilles, and Ty Masterpool also hurt after joining the team a few weeks ago. 14th in the final race of the night. That was a solid result from Freddie, and he's a guy who usually excels in some of these ruts, technical conditions. So I think Freddie, along with some guys like Shane McElrath, as I mentioned, will continue to get better as the season progresses. And unfortunately, for Cole Thompson, of course, he was in the main event once again, second in a row on the Heartbeat Hot Sauce Nano Extreme, powered by Tylube Yamaha. But unfortunately, we had Cole Thompson get landed on a little bit by Hunter Lawrence. Thankfully, he seems to be okay. 16th in the first main event, and also the 10th ever rider to qualify out of the B group into the night show for the Triple Crown race. Sour into the night, but we're definitely going to see Cole back in the main event picture throughout the year, whether he's in the 450 class or the 250 West division. 22nd place and your final qualifier in the 450 class, or your final finisher, Tristan Lane for the McGinley Clinic Privateer Support Program. Tristan, unfortunately, wasn't able to claim a point at Indianapolis, but he is starting to rack up the main event starts this season. Lane has been in a great rhythm recently, 5 main event starts now in 9 attempts, and his 5 main event starts have come in the last 6 races. Tristan heating up a bit, 17th place finish in the final race of the night, his best effort of the evening, but with some of the better scores earlier in the night for some of his fellow privateers. He got shuffled to last, unfortunately. No points to show for it, but Tristan continuing to build and get better in the main event picture. 5 starts, pretty solid so far this year for the 7-Eleven. Now, a couple quick notes before we conclude today's episode. Scott Meshy was the first man on the outside looking in. Got some TV time after his main event appearance in Daytona, representing the McGinley Clinic Privateer Support Program. But unfortunately, Scott missed the cut by a single spot this weekend. Tristan Lane did make the show for the team, so they had some representation in the main event. But Scott was one spot shy of making his second race in a row. Then a little bit further down the order, last place in the LCQ, Josh Cartwright. His season might be over, unfortunately. Full diagnosis isn't known yet, but Josh believes he tore his ACL during qualifying in Indianapolis. That's a huge blow. Josh was starting to pick up momentum, had a few main events in a row, missed at Daytona, and was pretty decent to start the day in Indy, but unfortunately, it looks like the number 519 is on the injured list now. Best wishes to Josh as he recovers. This has been episode number 9 of this season of the Unsung Heroes, covering the Indianapolis Supercross. Of course, thank you once again, Grant Harlan, Luke Neese, for their time on today's show. I am your host, Trey Stire. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the off week, and we'll see you after the first East West showdown of the year at Birmingham.